1 minute to air. The live stream has started.
Recording in progress.
Good evening to the city of Durham. Tonight is a very special night in city council chambers tonight, but we'll get to that in a moment. I'm just really excited about what's about to happen for the city of Durham and someone who's very special to the city of Durham. So I welcome you to our city council meeting here on Monday, December 19, 2022 at 7 p.m. here in City Hall chambers. We welcome those who have joined us in person, as well as those who are on the internet. Please join me in a moment of silent meditation. Thank you so much. I now recognize Councilwoman Deidreana Freeman to lead us in a pledge of allegiance.
Thank you. It's our practice to stand and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you will call the roll.
Mayor O'Neill,
I'm present.
Mayor Pro Tem Middleton,
I'm here.
Councilmember Caballero,
Here.
Councilmember Freeman,
Present.
Councilmember Holsey-Hyman,
Present.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
and Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, now for the special presentation this evening, I ask Councilman Williams if he would join me on the floor.
All right, everybody. This is a very special moment, and really special to me because I get to share the board with this young fella and hang out with him on a monthly basis. We'd like Coach K to come up with us. And if would you like to have your family with you?
Yeah, please.
All right. This is our proclamation to you. Whereas Michael William Krzyzewski, Coach K, served as head coach of Duke University's men's basketball from 1980 to 2022, amassing a reputation as one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time. And whereas Coach K established Duke as one of college basketball's most dynamic programs, earned numerous awards and accolades during his 42-year career at Duke, and is the winningest coach in Division I men's basketball history. Whereas Coach K is regarded as a transformative leader and mentor, valuing the success and well-being of his players on and off the basketball court. And whereas the Durham community recognizes Coach K's commitment to public service and philanthropy through his service on multiple nonprofit boards. And whereas he established the Emily Krzyzewski Center for underrepresented students in Durham to complete higher education and become agents of change. And whereas Coach K has inspired generations of athletes, students, and community members and leaves behind a lasting legacy to be felt for years to come.
Now, therefore, I, Elaine M. O'Neill, Mayor of the City of Durham, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim December 19th, 2022 as Coach K Day in Durham, and hereby urge all residents to take note of this observance. Witness my hand and the corporate seal of the City of Durham, North Carolina, this, the 19th day of December 2022. Congratulations, Coach K.
Thank you. Well, this is quite an honor, and to have 2 of my 3 daughters here and 7 of our 10 grandkids here is significant. And the main reason it's significant is because all my grandchildren have grown up in Durham. And when we came here in 1980, we knew about Duke. We did not know about Durham. And as much as we've fallen in love with Duke, we have definitely fallen in love and are still in love with Durham, North Carolina. In addition to coaching at Duke, I was the U.S. coach for 11 years. So really all over the world, I was proud to say, I'm from Durham, North Carolina. And where is that? I said, it's where you should want to live too, because it's the best place in the world. We've been afforded many opportunities to go to other places, you know, whether it be in the professional ranks or other colleges. And really, we could never find ourselves leaving a great university, but also a great town, a great city. We've seen it grow. You know, part of Durham growing is the commitment that Duke and Durham have together. 2 is better than 1 if 2 can work as 1, and Duke and Durham have worked as 1. Our president, Vince Price, has taken the baton from presidents preceding him and really has done miraculous work in getting to know all of you and you getting to know Duke. And as a result, it's been 1. We not only love Durham, we believe in Durham. We believe in Durham, North Carolina. And it's obvious with the growth that is happening right now, we're not the only ones. And I encourage our leadership to really keep continuing to take the steps necessary to fulfill the needs that this growth requires. For us, the 16 years that we've been with the Emily Krzyzewski Center, my mom never went to high school. She was a cleaning lady in the Chicago Athletic Club, where I grew up in the inner city of Chicago, but she believed in education. And that's why we started it, because really, I think the most untapped resource in America today is the talent that's hitting in low-income areas in every community. We see that on a daily basis with the Emily Krzyzewski Center, because everyone who comes in goes to college. And in the last 4 years, not only have they earned the right to go to college, but we follow them in college. We're with them the entire time. And as a result of some pretty good board work, he's doing all right. And still a rookie. And we're able to reach every high school in Durham County with our Game Plan College, where high school students, freshmen on up, we can help them navigate the really tough process of not only applying to school, which sometimes educational and language barriers stop people from even attempting to do that. We're there. We will, you won't have a barrier. You know, we'll help you. And that's helped us reach out. We want to thank the guidance counselors at all the schools for allowing us to come in, and instead of feeling like we're taking their place, no. Two's better than one if two can act as one. Let us help you. And so we're going to stay here. Now I don't know where that key goes, but I'm going to try some places, see if it works. I'm sure it does. And but again, we love Durham, not like Durham, and we believe in it, and we believe in it so much that, you know, when people say when I speak all over the country, I say, "Are you still in Durham?" I say, "Yeah." "Are you crazy?" Yeah, I'm right here. And my family's right here. And so it's an honor to get this, and I want to share it with my entire family. And just Godspeed as you continue to make the decisions that you've made thus far and that you have the honor of doing in the future. It's really cool. I didn't expect having all of them here. And Vince, for you to come, it's really very, very, very special. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks to Coach K and his family and Dr. Price and Ms. Williams for all of your dedication to the city of Durham. We're going to go ahead with our business of the people's business tonight, and we wish you all a very safe and happy holiday season. You don't have to stay for this part. You definitely can stay, but you're most certainly welcome to go and get a little extra Christmas shopping in or holiday shopping in. So thank you all for coming tonight. All right, we'll turn to announcements by council at this time, and I'll kick it off with another sporting announcement as the North Carolina Central University Eagles. Eagle Pride. Yes, we are national champs as well, so
Mayor,
stay tuned.
I want to see an Aggie do this.
Yes.
There you go. Good job. There it is.
Yeah. So stay tuned. I talked with the chancellor on Saturday and again on yesterday, and I've also spoken with members of his staff. We are planning to have something. We're looking at, have not definitely decided what that will be. We're talking about a parade and other things to commemorate this victory, and we're looking at, I think, January the 20th and 21st. Just stay tuned, know what's coming. We have not formally put together a committee as of yet. It's just been the chancellor and I and his chief of staff talking about things. But because of some travel that we have, and of course the young people are now out on Christmas break, whatever will happen, we would like to have them involved from the planning going forward. So we will hopefully have something for the entire city to celebrate during the month of January. Okay? All right, and that will be all the announcements I have. I'm going to turn it over to our Mayor Pro Tem to take the agenda a little bit from there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Your Honor, and to my honorable colleagues and to all in the chamber. Congratulations again, Coach, and thank you for gracing us and to your beautiful family as well. Mr. President, Dr. Williams as well. Thank you for being with us. Colleagues, any other announcements from council? I'll yield to Councilmember Caballero.
Thank you. I have a few announcements to continue the sports announcements. Yesterday was one of the best World Cup finals I've ever experienced in my life. Argentina, and I say this as a Chilena, so that tells you how good a game it was. Yeah, it was a momentous day. Secondly, I just want to encourage folks to vote in the city attorney's holiday door contest. I went and voted last week. It's really fun. So if you need something joyful to do, go do that. And then finally, tomorrow I'll be leaving early from our work session, and I have excused absences, but I just wanted to share a little bit about my trip because I think there's lots of folks in our community who face this time of year with a lot of challenges. We have lots of folks who, between borders and cages, do not get to be with their loved ones. This will be the first time since 1999 that I spend Christmas in Chile. It's the first time my kids have seen their abuela in many years because of the pandemic. My mom lives in the States, but she lives in Tucson. And it's the first time that extended family will have been together, 3 generations. So it is an extremely emotional time, and I'm reflecting on how many folks, either because they can't because they don't have the proper documentation, they can't afford it, or because they're incarcerated by an unfair carceral system, do not get to be with their families at this time. And so I am thinking about them and sending a lot of love and light to all of us who are divided from our family and friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Safe travels to you. I'll yield to my honorable Ward 1 colleague, Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, colleagues, and congratulations. I first wanted to share heartfelt condolences for Terrence Brown's family. His big talk will be missed in NIS, and I know that the services were held this weekend. I also want to just share that DPD Officer Justin Seek has a recovery fund set up with a benevolent association regarding his oral cancer fight for his life. And I'd ask you to please visit the website pbfi.org for more information. And on a happier note, want to just congratulate NCCU's football team for an awesome Celebration Bowl game and an even greater win in overtime. I want to wish everyone a happy Kwanzaa, a happy Hanukkah, and a Merry Christmas to all. For those experiencing a little bit of the holiday blues, missing a loved one who may no longer would be with us, I want to send a big hug and say how the heartache is here or there, but just know that the memories are stronger and louder. And lastly, I just want to remind folks to be careful on the roads this holiday season, out and about, and at home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'll look to my left. I'll yield to my honorable at-large colleague, Councilmember Hyman. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. So I just want to also say congratulations to the Eagles, because I am a professor at North Carolina Central University, so point of privilege in the social work department. So I want to say congratulations to my students. But I also want to say just a heartfelt thank you to all of the residents that came out to the parade on Saturday. It was cold, and I know I'm from New York, but it was cold. But we had a wonderful time, just the spirit in the community. We had a really nice float. And we had a good time. So I just want to say thank you to that. Also want to say, I was not at our last meeting, but I also want to say the reason why. I had the privilege of being accepted into something called the Higher Education Leadership Fellowship. And that is a fellowship that 22 people throughout the United States were able to be a part of. And presidents from HBCU selected 27 of us to be able to train us around leadership and leadership positions, and it was so empowering. So I want to say a shout out to the new cohort, because we all have different cohorts, but it's the new cohort, and also to President Herman Felton from Wiley College. It was his vision, and it was very empowering. So some of that stuff that I did learn, I'm definitely going to be bringing into my role here as city government. And I also want to say thank you again for just making sure that everybody is having a good holiday. You know, and in my social work background, as my colleagues have said, sometimes this is a time where people reflect, have lost loved ones. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, I say try to have a safe, happy holiday and just try to have a good spirit. A good spirit is free. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Colleagues, my at-large colleague, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I don't want to steal any of Coach K's thunder, but I did want to give a little shout out to one of his grandkids who is here with us today, John David, who I know from my son, his friend at the American Ninja Warrior gym here in Durham.
Ninja.
John David is probably going to be back with us one day where we'll be giving him some sort of award for his incredible ninja performance. He's already been on American Ninja Warrior Junior and won a world championship, am I right? National championship? Yeah, so just wanted to make sure everybody has their eye on this young man here. We can say we knew him when. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. The most dangerous person in the room, a ninja. Councilmember Williams.
Congratulations, John David, being a national champion in American Ninja. That's pretty cool. I'm really short tonight. Aside from, I get to spend a monthly basis with, as I stated, with Coach K in the boardroom, and the coaching doesn't stop. He coaches the board as well, and it's quite the experience. So, Coach, congratulations. Great to see you on my home court tonight. So congratulations, and also to my my fellow NCCU. What a statement. And I just want to quote one of the players. He said, "We don't have any stars on our team. We're just a great team. And that's what makes us a star." Wow. Talk about leadership, discipline, character. Kudos to Coach Oliver. That's leadership, man. That's leadership. And it just makes me feel good that, I can go down the street anywhere in Durham and sing to the loud as I can, to the top of my voice. All we do is win, 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 no matter what. Because this is a winning town. Between Duke, North Carolina Central, we are a winning town. So thanks for all of the champions in this city.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, colleagues, for some wonderful announcements. I just want to associate myself with all of the celebratory announcements tonight. I have two quick announcements. Firstly, colleagues, I want to thank you for granting me leave on the last two meetings to travel to Israel as a guest of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs over there, and had opportunity to engage in several meetings and briefings. Your Honor, Madam Mayor and colleagues, I'm charged to bring you greetings from the mayors of Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and the Druze community of Isfia in northern Israel, and they send their regards and charge me to greet you and let you know that we're solidified in the great work of municipal governance. To the members of our community, when the trip was covered in the media, who had questions and concerns, to those who celebrated it, to those who had questions, concerns about it, we will be having some community conversations to talk about what exactly I did and what I said and what I was exposed to, what I challenged, what I celebrated during the trip. But I come with a grateful heart this evening, seeing how we are able to carve out a shared space in our democracy here, a shared space in which isn't predicated upon dynastic bloodline, not predicated upon a crown holding us together, but the ridiculous idea that a diverse people can govern themselves. And I come back more committed to that after this trip. So I look forward to talking about my trip to Israel completely and openly and talk about what we talked about. This trip came at a time when I know a number of residents in our community are concerned about growing issues of anti-Semitism. So we want to definitely use this as an opportunity to deal with cohesion in our city and in our community. Secondly, I want to congratulate the staff, Madam Manager, our police department, and others on the successful, finally, the successful deployment of ShotSpotter technology on last week. The announcement came while I was traveling. I want to celebrate it tonight because I know there were a number of challenges, natural and some manufactured, in rolling out the deployment, but it is deployed nonetheless. On tonight, I particularly want to reference some citizens I spoke with at a national night out a couple of summers ago in Oxford Manor, who said that voices like ours really don't matter at City Hall. And what they meant is that they're not part of a professional organizing class. They don't command great listservs. They don't have a lot of money, but they have ideas. And to actually see one of their ideas, something that they want passed, to actually become policy. So on tonight, I want to say respectfully to them from City Hall that I disagree. Your voices do matter. And congratulations on your continued advocacy. I also want to congratulate North Carolina Central University, not only on their victory, but for flexing their institutional muscle as well, demonstrating that there's more than one academic institution in this city that weighs heavily on matters of policy. On tonight, Durham, and we can get back to debate on tomorrow or next week or in the new year, but on tonight, Madam Mayor and colleagues, I want us to consider something. We are the only city in this state on tonight that has working in tandem at the same time a guaranteed income pilot, unarmed mental health responders, a robust and expanded violence interruption system, and also the ability to test whether or not we can increase response time or better response time and potentially save lives through the deployment of gunshot detection technology, working all at the same time. We've got a lot more work to do, but the pieces are being put in place, I believe, alas and finally, for a comprehensive, multifaceted approach that not only deals with tactical short-term, but also root cause initiatives as well. We're the only city in the state of North Carolina that has all of that going on at the same time. That's how serious we are. So we can get back to fighting in due time, but on tonight, let's recognize that everybody at the table has an idea on the table, that we're honoring each other's ideas, and we're trying all we can in accordance with our values, in accordance with the way we want to live our lives in Durham, with finally confronting this scourge of gun violence in our city and our community. Thank you all. It's good to be with you. Happy holidays to everyone. God bless Durham. With that, colleagues, we're now going to turn to, with the mayor's permission, to our priority items by our city manager, city attorney, and city clerk. And with that, I will yield to our city manager for any priority items she may have. Good evening, Madam Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Madam Mayor, members of the Durham City Council, and Coach K, who's outside the room. Congratulations on your honor this evening and receiving that big key to the city. I would like to read into your hearing this evening 3 priority items. Agenda item number 19, Consolidated Annexation, Stella View. It is the agenda memo that has been revised slightly to include an updated fiscal impact analysis from the fire department. Agenda item number 21, also a consolidated annexation, Geer and Junction. That agenda memo has also been revised to include an updated fiscal impact analysis from the fire department. And finally, agenda item number 23, the American Rescue Plan Act project, Bridging Business Opportunity and Equity. This was added as a supplemental item. That is all I have for you this evening.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Your items are noted. At this time, I'll turn now to our city attorney for any priority items she may have. Good evening, Councilor.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, Madam Mayor, and members of the City Council. It's good to see you all. I would like to add my congratulations to the chorus for Coach K. Like you, Coach K, I discovered Durham when I came to Duke. As a student, not a coach, but I agree. It's been a gift to be a part of this community. I'm very grateful. And thank you for years of thrills that you helped deliver to this community. And I have no priority items.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. At this time, I'll yield now to our clerk for any priority items she may have. Good evening, Madam Clerk.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I would like to let everyone know that the voting board has malfunctioned, and I would appreciate if everyone could do hand votes this evening. And congratulations to Coach K from a UNC family.
It's all love tonight. Thank you. Thank you. At this time now, friends, I will read for the record consent agenda items. into the record. The consent agenda consists of items that have already been treated and taken up by the council in the previous work session and can be passed with one vote. However, any member of the council or any member of the public may pull an item from the consent agenda to have comments about it, and we will vote on it later and not pass it as part of a singular consent vote. And I'll start the reading now of our consent agenda here. Item number 1, approval of city council minutes. Item number 2, Durham Planning Commission appointment. Item number 4, Raleigh-Durham Airport Authority appointment. Item number 5, Human Relations Commission appointment. Item number 6, American Rescue Plan Act ARPA project, Latino Credit Union Resiliency Fund. Item number 7, American Rescue Plan Act ARPA project, Eviction Assistance Fund. Item number 8, American Rescue Plan Act ARPA project, Home and Neighborhood Preservation Initiative. Item number 9, resolution to designate a portion of NC Highway 751 and Cameron Boulevard from Curley Road to Duke University Road as Coach K Highway. Item number 10, American Rescue Plan Act ARPA project, homeowner and homebuyer initiated program. Item number 11, American Rescue Plan Act ARPA project, Durham Affordable Sustainable Homes. Item number 12, contract with Housing for New Hope, Inc. for the provision of landlord engagement services. Item number 13, North Carolina Department of Public Safety, Division of Emergency Management, Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, HMGPDR-4393-0038, Grant Project Ordinance. Item number 14, award of construction contract to J.F. Wilkerson Contracting Company, Inc., in an amount not to exceed, award of construction contract to J.F. Wilkerson Contracting Company, Inc. for the FY23 unscheduled pipeline repairs project. My screen did something funky, excuse me. Item number 15, award of construction contract to Carolina Civil Works, Inc. for the FY23 unscheduled pipeline repairs project. Under general business agenda, public hearings, item number 19, consolidated annexation, Stella View. Item number 20, zoning map change 41500 Old Chapel Hill Road. Item number 21, consolidated annexation, Geer and Junction. Under supplemental item, Office of Economic and Workforce Development Department. Item number 23, American Rescue Plan Act project, bridging business opportunity and equity. That is the reading of the entire agenda. Madam Manager, I don't have any cards in my position, Madam Clerk, of anyone items being pulled. Is that correct? All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from everyone, but I heard a motion from Councilmember Freeman and the second from Councilmember Hyman. Will indicate all in favor, just vote by aye. I'm looking for my clicker. Aye. Those opposed? In the chair's opinion, the vote is unanimous. The consent agenda is passed. All right, with no items being pulled, we'll turn now to our general business public hearings. Item number 19, consolidated annexation. Now I will yield to Councilmember Caballero.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, everyone. We are now on agenda item number 19, consolidated annexation, Stella View. Hello, Director Young. We're ready for your report.
Good evening, Mayor Neal, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and members of council. I'm Sarah Young, Director of the Planning Department. I will be presenting cases this evening to you. First, before I begin, I want to state for the record that all Planning Department public hearing items have been advertised in notice in accordance with state and local law, and affidavits of all notices are on file with the Planning Department. This first case is a request for utility extension agreement, voluntary annexation, and initial zoning from Jeremy Anderson for 3 parcels of land totaling 62.75 acres located at 1031, 1011, and 1001 Sharon Road. This annexation petition is for a contiguous expansion of the primary corporate limits. The current zoning is residential rural and residential suburban 20. For the initial city zoning for this site, if annexation is approved, the applicant proposes to change the designation to Planned Development Residential 4.484 to allow for the construction of up to 230 single-family and townhouse units. The Planning Commission recommended denial of this case by a vote of 9-2 at their September 13th, 2022 meeting. The properties are currently designated low-medium density residential on the future land use map. The proposed Planned Development Residential 4.484 zoning is consistent with that land use designation. Staff would like to daylight that the applicant has included in this development plan a commitment of 3% of the units as income restricted at 80% AMI for a term of 30 years. That is on the face of the development plan, but was omitted from the staff report, so I just wanted to clarify that proffer. As a reminder, 3 motions are required for this application. The first is to adopt an ordinance annexing the property and entering into utility extension agreement. The second is to approve the zoning ordinance, and the third is to approve the corresponding consistency statement. And staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Director Young. You've heard the report from staff, and now I'm going to declare this public hearing open. First, do we have any questions from council members? Nope. Great. As we know, we have to give equal time to proponents and opponents. Right now, I have Mr. Ghosh and 3 others signed up here, but I'm not sure if there's any on the Zoom. And Madam Clerk, I don't see anyone signed up on my sheet, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone.
Councilmember, you are correct.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Ghosh, is there, besides you, even though I have 3 other cards, are they all going to be speaking, or is it just going to be you this evening?
Mr. Ghost, would you approach the podium, please, so we
Thank
can
you.
open here? Sure.
As far as I know, I'll be the only person speaking for the applicant. The rest of our team also signed up.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Ghosh, how much time do you think you're going to need?
7 minutes.
Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and start.
Oh,
Your name and your address.
And good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and members of the City Council. I am Neil Ghosh, an attorney at the Morningstar Law Group, which is at 700 West Main Street in Durham. I am representing Lennar Homes on this rezoning, and also with me tonight are a few folks from Lennar, Stephen Dorn and Charlie Oakley, as well as Jeremy Anderson from Thomas and Hutton, formerly Coulter Jewel Thames, and we also have Reinald Stevenson with Ramey Kemp and Associates. I want to thank Ms. Young for her presentation. I thought it might be useful to give some history here to help put some items into perspective. This case was filed about 20 months ago in February of 2021, and our last substantive submittal before the Planning Commission was in October of 21. This item was voted on by the Planning Commission in September of 22, so almost a year after our last substantive submittal. The reason I bring that up is because at the time we submitted almost 2 years ago, there was kind of a push and pull between the feedback we were getting. Area residents seem to want densities which were consistent with the comprehensive plan instead of more density, and the Planning Commission was adamant about providing a variety of housing types. So that is what we set out to try to do. At 230 units, the density is 4.484 dwelling units per acre. This is both consistent with the future land use map, and it is denser than the surrounding area. In fact, this is one of the densest projects in the Searles Basin. So far, I think only K Parcel, which has multifamily, Olive Branch East, which Lennar is building, and Andrews Chapel are the only denser projects in the area, and they're only slightly denser. Moreover, you can see from the development plan that the building and parking envelope does not cross to the other side of the existing power line easement, so the density here is somewhat understated because that acreage is included in our density calculation but excluded from our developable area. Regardless, what we have here is a project that will include both single-family and townhome houses. We received a 2-9 vote, a 2-9 vote from the Planning Commission with Gary Cutright and Tony Cease voting yes. Their comments are informative, in my opinion. The proposed zoning here strikes the right balance on a busy road between development under the current zoning and denser development that is meant to meet the growing needs of the city of Durham. Since the Planning Commission, our team has taken some time to grapple with the feedback we received there and from the community in general to try to make some further adjustments. One such change came from a comment from Commissioner Cease, who thought it would be a missed opportunity not to explore the possibility of a connection between this project site and the adjacent Spring Valley Elementary School. Working with DPS, we've been able to reach an agreement and have now committed to making that connection. This is a nice improvement, but the other big improvement is Lennar's commitment to affordable housing. Lennar is the single largest provider of new construction homes in Durham over the past few years, and they are poised to retain that title over the next few years. In general, they build mostly market rate affordable housing, and several of their projects have included monetary proffers to the city's Affordable Housing Fund. In fact, this project also includes a monetary proffer. But this project also includes a commitment to construct actual affordable units within the development. This is a proffer that Lennar hopes to mimic on its future projects here in Durham. 3% of the final lot count will be constructed as affordable for-sale homes at the 80% AMI level, with that restriction sticking for a period of 30 years, which is consistent with the UDO definition for affordable housing. This is a significant commitment coming from a home builder that has built over 1,000 homes in Durham in the last 5 years and stands to build just that much in the next 5 years. Now, this project has taken longer than we would have expected, but Lennar still wants to try to deliver these homes in a timely fashion. As a result, they have begun the site plan approval process for this development, so we have some more concrete figures as a result. I believe condition number 10 sets the minimum number of townhomes at 80. We would increase that to 100 and also would commit that no more than 50% of the final unit count would be single-family detached homes. I also want to provide some clarity on condition 11, which commits to 3,000 linear feet of paved walking paths. I think that should say improved rather than paved. We do have a significant amount of paved sidewalk included with this project, but we also have a separate from that, we also have walking paths, which will be improved but not necessarily paved. I think on the site plan, we are showing in excess of 3,000 linear feet of improved walking trails, in addition to over 2 miles of paved sidewalk. So I just wanted to clear that up. Also want to note that we have made a commitment here to provide a bike lane across our frontage, construction of portions of the greenway, dedication of greenway easement, and an additional amenity area with a 3-kilowatt solar PV system. So this community will provide both market rate affordable housing and capital A affordable housing with a robust amenity package in addition to the road improvements which are required for this development from the TIA, and only one stream crossing, which is limited to utility crossing only. This is a pretty great project with a little bit of everything. You've got density, housing variety, solar commitments, road improvements, open space, and most importantly, affordable housing. So thank you for your time tonight. We hope to have your support, and we have our team available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ghosh. At this time, I have, I think, 6 opponents signed up to speak and none on the Zoom, and I just want to confirm with the city clerk. That's correct? Okay. So I was going to give each opponent 3 minutes, and then with any difference of time, if the applicant has any additional information, they can do it then. So I'm going to go ahead and start calling names out. The first name I have is Pamela Williams, then Donna Steinbach, then Tammy Sawaya, then Thomas Freeman, then Pam Andrews, and then maybe it's Rebecca, but it wasn't fully filled out.
Excuse me. Good afternoon, all. My name's Pam Williams. I live at 2130 Adventure Trail. I'm requesting the City Council to help us control the chaos that is present in East Durham Lick Creek watershed. There's approximately 8,600 acres in Lick Creek Basin within the Protective Falls Lake watershed, and almost 1,000 acres are being disturbed at this time today. Every state road is being torn up for water lines, sewer, gas. People are clearing land and burning without permits and a disregard to the existing neighbors. We request you to say no until better ordinances can be adopted to help with the environmental, and so those managing this chaos can make sure Durham's requirements are being met. The development is using minimum standards for site plan. Large developments such as this should provide natural buffer boundaries along the property lines to maintain the existing tree canopy for these large developments and the existing homes that they parallel. Almost 90% of the tree preservation as proposed is within the existing stream buffer. Request that the tree preservation be required outside the stream buffer. The benefits of mature trees are endless. Request a 30-foot boundary with a 06 opacity along the existing property boundary and along the proposed right-of-way. No more fences along the state road, so there is nothing but hardscape. Request that no stormwater devices seen clearing in the proposed boundary buffers to maintain the existing mature trees as much as possible and help with stormwater runoff, view shed, et cetera. NCDOT considers 12,400 average daily traffic at capacity for this type of roadway. In 2019, the ADT was 12,000. This development will add 2,000, and others that have been approved, under construction, or pending for Sharon Road is over 6,000 additional ADT. So that's 8,000 ADT to be added to a road already at 12,000. There are no proposed infrastructure highway improvements for Sharon Road and NC 98. They have been recently removed from the comprehensive plan by the MPO. The MPO is now considering US 70 as a boulevard that will not improve the congestion and safety. Only you can help us weigh the importance of the environmental issues, the density, and our quality of life. Thank you. And y'all have a good holiday.
Thank you. I have Donna Steinbeck next.
Good afternoon, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and council members. I'm Donna Steinbeck at 4825 Jimmy Rogers Road, Durham, North Carolina. In summary, I distributed last week the Stella View environmental planning metrics for your review. And in summary, most of the metrics are minimal, and we need better than minimal or worst case metrics for these environmental and planning metrics. The areas that we would encourage you to ask for plans or better proffers are like the 100-year stormwater plan that was not mentioned in any of the documents, and it's needed because the tributary to Lick Creek runs right through this project. So the other area is the blasting notification and well testing. We know that this will probably need blasting, but it's right there at the school, within 201 feet of the school. So we ask that notification be given early so that if there's any hiccups that they can be worked out, and that all the permit rules be followed. The mass grading, this is a large area, 62.75 acres, and we do not have very much as far as the tree coverage being met. It's at minimal, and we need better trees to fight the runoff and the erosion there. Pam's already covered the borders and buffers, and I support that, and we need a larger perennial stream buffer. I'd like to thank you for your time, and if there are any questions, I'll be available.
Thank you. Next, I have Tammy Sawaya. And I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Tammy Sawaya. I'm at 2115 Baptist Road. Mayor Pro Tem, and council members, thank you for your time. I'm opposed to this development, or at least would like to ask that this development be put on pause. At the November 30th JCCP meeting, the planning department has worked very hard and have come up with some UDO suggestions to help deal with development in our area for Triassic basins. And if we approve this development, then those UDOs would not be applicable to this to this development, and I feel like it's very important that we pause and that we are now addressing the situation and they apply to all developments going forward. And like the previous speaker spoke, I'm also concerned about blasting and being close by to the elementary school. I would ask that there would be a plan for how to address, especially if it's during class time. How is it going to impact students? I think that should be thought of. I also want to point out that the offer for contribution to public schools is $15,000 for approximately 53 additional students. That's about $283 per student. Leesville Road, 5202 Leesville Road, had a proffer of $2,000 per student, or $20,000, which equates to $500 per student. I would ask that the proffer be increased to at least $500 per student, or even higher, especially due to the proximity to Spring Valley Elementary. And thank you for your time, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Next, I have Thomas Freeman.
Good evening. What a wonderful evening and a wonderful season. I can relate to Coach K in a number of ways, coming from a very humble background. My mom was a lunch lady, and my dad, after surviving D-Day, came to Durham, North Carolina to raise a family, and I'm a lifelong resident of Durham. I rise today, and let me start. My name is Thomas Freeman. My address is 1818 Southview Road, Durham. I rise this evening in opposition to the zoning change request. Preserve Rural Durham is a community nonprofit organization focused on blending our rural heritage and lifestyle with orderly, incremental, environmentally aware development of Durham. But before I continue, I'd like to say thank you to the thousands of citizens from Durham, North Carolina, and beyond who have joined the website, viewed our YouTube videos, or simply contacted PRD to offer support and encouragement. Thank you to the unseen scientists, researchers, engineers, attorneys, and concerned citizens who are PRD. Stella View is currently correctly zoned. Townhomes do not reflect the community architecture and, more importantly, lifestyle. The high density, high social, and environmental onslaught continues. The damage to creeks and tributaries as a result of ineffective best management practices concerning sediment control continues. Mass grading of residential construction sites by corporate out-of-state investors has all but eliminated the once dominated family-oriented home builders. Those jobs are gone. Those businesses are gone. I request you listen to the drumbeat and oppose this zoning. Thank you very much. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all.
Thank you. Next up, I have Pamela Andrews. Good evening.
Good evening. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to all of you. First of all, Mayor O'Neill and the City Council members, to all of you, and City Manager. I appreciate the UDO amendments that have been worked on through Sarah Young and her people within her department. I really do thank you from the bottom of my heart. They're being proposed both on the phased development, tree preservation, and sedimentation and control. However, they're coming too late for hundreds, if not thousands, of acres in Southeast Durham. Recently, it was mentioned that 600 acres were being developed in Southeast Durham. However, this number did not include all the developments that have land disturbance permits. It's more over 1,000 at this time. The total is approximately 1,000 acres of the 8,000 acres in Southeast Durham protected watershed. Last Friday, the Neuse River keeper, Samantha Kropp, came out to our side of town into Lick Creek. The readings were the highest we've ever seen. The retention pond adjacent to the bridge at Olive Branch and Dock Nichols was pouring red tomato soup into the creek, as you can see in this picture. The readings were 1,046, where drinking water should be 10. This is the highest readings we've had. Drinking water should be a 10 again. Samantha immediately reported to Jonathan McNeil and Ryan Eves at this, and they sent people out. Per the neighbors, the water was raging out of the pipe. This retention ponds are not working. This project we're referring to will drain right into this same little creek a short distance away. The new amendments are needed as soon as possible in hopes that the amendments will remedy some of the environmental concerns. Passing developments prior to these amendments allows them to continue with the same green light measures and to continue up the destruction of our environment. As requested by a member of the council, I have a sample of water taken December the 1st from a resident's kitchen sink. It was taken December 1st. Clearly, this is not something you would want to drink or cook with. Turbidity. The higher the turbidity levels are often associated with higher levels of disease-causing microorganisms, such as viruses, parasites, and some bacteria. If there is blasting near the school, this property is 201 feet from Spring Valley Elementary School. I'm a retired teacher. I've been teaching since September to help for maternity leave. Think of our children if this blasting is required. That is not the environment for children. Preserve Rural Durham is asking for all development approvals to be halted in Southeast Durham, which is Triassic Basin soil, until the new UDO amendments are passed. A moratorium needs to be put in place until we have scientific studies, more expert opinions, comprehensive environmental plans have been conducted. At this point, amendments have been written, but only time will show their effectiveness of the new strategies. The environment in Southeast Durham is in peril. You promised me to come take a tour with me. I'm going to hold you to that promise, Mr. Middleton. I appreciate every one of you sincerely, but we are desperate for help in Southeast Durham. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. And then I think the name is Rebecca. It wasn't completely filled out.
Rebecca? Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good evening.
Yeah, sorry I didn't fill that completely. Yeah. I'm Rebecca Freeman, and good evening, Mayor O'Neill and Mayor Pro Tem Middleton and council members. I appreciate being here tonight, be able to address you on this issue. And let me start off by saying Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy Hanukkah. I'm Rebecca Freeman. I live at 1818 Southview Road in Durham. I'm a lifelong resident of Durham, educated at Bethesda and Southern High School. I'm speaking in opposition to the proposed annexation and development as presented with Stella View. I have one point. Some of my other points were already taken by the presentation by the attorney earlier. The point that I wanted to make is the developer has no infrastructure commitment for outdoor recreation areas for children or family or community gatherings. An estimated of 53 school-aged children and an unknown number of younger children, there is no planned recreation area, no civic space planned into this development for children and families to play and gather together. Bike lanes do not meet the need for children recreation and gathering infrastructure. Sharon Road is already very congested. Use of bike lanes along this busy road by children are dangerous, especially with scooters, tricycles, and recreational uses and equipment that are normally used by children. Sidewalks, greenways, and trails in the plan cater primarily to walking and are not shareable with recreational equipment. This development as presented is not family friendly, nor does it meet the outdoor recreational needs for children and family or community gatherings. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you. And then, Madam Clerk, if you could make, I think Wanda Allen is the name that you said had their hand raised on the Zoom. If you could make them available, please. Thank you.
I'm on. Hi, this is Wanda Allen.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Are you a proponent or opponent of this case?
I'm against it.
Okay, thank you. You have 3 minutes, Ms. Allen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. I am sorry that I can't be with y'all this evening. I am doing elderly care, so I'm trying to do that this evening, but I also would like to bring up or remind all of us the decisions that we're making today is having an impact, not only the local Durham area, but on the entire state of North Carolina. As you have seen in the videos, these runoffs are going into the streams, rivers, and Falls Lake, which Falls Lake is a major recreation for Durham. As you know, Falls Lake has serves our families, not only in Durham, but also in Wake County. They are swimming and fishing in this area. But another important thing is to remind all of us, in 2022, $4.2 million was spent by the taxpayers to clean up the streams. And now we have the data to show that majority of this is coming from development. And yes, we know that developers can do it, but however, they're not doing the right thing. And then in 2021, $5.2 million was also spent by taxpayers to clean up our stream. So we as taxpayers are picking up some of the tab that where it has not been handled correctly. And I want to thank each one of you for all you do for us. And I hope you have a wonderful and happy holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. That is all the speakers I have that were opponents. Mr. Ghosh, by my tally, you have about 14 minutes if you would like to use them. I encourage you not to, sorry. But you have that available to you.
I promise I won't use 14 minutes, but I did want to just touch on a few things that were discussed. So I think it was mentioned that there has been land clearing and burning without permits, and I just want to say for the record that that's not Lennar, to my knowledge. I'm not suggesting it doesn't happen, but it's not this builder. Additionally, the tree coverage standards, you know, I think it's been said, and it's accurate, that what's committed to here is what the UDO requires. I do want to just point out that that does not mean that those will be the only trees on the property. What we have opted to do here is meet our tree coverage requirement through tree preservation. There will be additional trees planted throughout the community. That's per landscape requirements, UDO requirements, and also per Lennar's own marketing needs and how they develop their community. I don't know what the overall tree coverage will be, but from a UDO standpoint, we are meeting the tree coverage standards through preservation alone, and there will be additional trees planted on the property. I did want to say about the school proffer, yeah, I think that I noticed that there is a mistake, and I will say the neighbors had said 53 additional students. I think the staff report actually mentions 89 additional students, and we would increase that proffer. I think it's 15,000 right now. We would increase that to 44,500, which is roughly 500, not roughly, that's 500 per student, per additional student. And that was, in the staff report, I believe it says 89 additional students. There were some pictures shown of stormwater that was discolored, and I think it was stated that, it was implied that somehow that is drinking water, and I just want to be very clear about that. Stormwater is not drinking water. Now, it's stormwater, and we are meeting, we will be meeting, and development does, at this point, to my knowledge, meet the requirements of Durham for stormwater management. But I just want to make very clear, stormwater is not drinking water. There also was a suggestion that there is no recreational commitment. There is, Jeremy, I don't know, could you tell me which number of commitment that is? I forgot to look. It's commitment number 12 on there. And I think I mentioned earlier that there is a site plan in review, and to my knowledge, that site plan actually shows a pool for this development. So there is a recreational commitment, but moreover, there is indication on the site plan that there will be a pool associated with this neighborhood. So there are, and that's in addition to the walking trails and the sidewalks that we talked about earlier. So there are plenty of recreational opportunities here, and this is definitely set up for a family-friendly neighborhood. I appreciate your time, and again, our team is available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ghosh. At this time, I think we are done with any speakers, so I'm going to call this public hearing closed, and the matter is now before council, and I'm looking to my colleagues for any questions or comments. Councilmember Holsey Hammond.
Good evening. Can you just give me some clarity? Because you reported today, right, that there was going to be affordable housing, but in the notes that I was reading from the Planning Commission, they said that they didn't see any affordable housing in the plan. So was that something that was added, or has it always been in it?
Right, so that commitment was added after the Planning Commission, and I believe Planning Director Young mentioned that it wasn't included in the staff report, but it was added. So it's currently on the development plan that's in your agenda packet. I think that had been updated in October.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Planning Commission didn't see that commitment.
Didn't see
It was after Planning Commission.
Right.
Yeah.
And can you just also speak to the connectivity in terms of the walkway from the school to the property, in terms of just explain that again?
Sure. So, and I'm going to ask Jeremy to speak to that to some degree, because I think they're working on that more closely on the site plan. But basically,
Because that was also a concern that they had, so I just want to get clarity.
right. So Commissioner Cease mentioned, what he said was it would be a missed opportunity not to explore the ability to have a connection between this site and the adjacent school site. And I will tell you, in my work on other projects adjacent to school sites, schools don't, the schools don't always say, yes, we want a connection. So actually, I was surprised when the folks at Thomas Hutton, they work with DPS. I was surprised when DPS said, actually, yeah, we'd be interested in that. And so we have committed to that. That is a commitment on the development plan. And I think, Jeremy, you could probably speak a little bit more to, from site plan standpoint, if you know what it looks like or how long it is or whatever.
Good evening, Jeremy Anderson, Thomas and Hutton. It's a short sidewalk connection coming off of one of the streets. Every one of the streets in the development has sidewalks on both sides, so you have connectivity. It's about 125 feet of a paved trail that would go from the street to the property line with the school. So the school could then pick up that connection and take it to their campus.
Thank you.
Is that all, Dr.?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Freeman?
Thank you. My first question is actually for staff. And I just wanted to, I guess, nail down this 10-day window, I guess, for blasting. Is that, like, how is that, I guess, reported out or reported in for us to be able to be aware of when the, I guess, the applicant is doing the blasting?
Sarah Young with Planning Department. So as you know, planning is not involved in blasting permit issuance. That's done through the fire marshal's office. I have to be honest and say that I don't have a lot of intimate knowledge about how that process works. I do know that they are required to give certain notice to properties within a certain radius from the blasting site, but I would have to take a few minutes to kind of look up the permit requirements online here and get back to you.
And mainly what I'm trying to figure out is how do we track whether or not that actual notice was given? And I'm assuming if that's in the fire department, there has to be a way that they let the city know, like this, like the planning department or city manager's office, someone has to be able to know that it's happening. And so whatever that process is, I would just love to get feedback on that in general. And what do we need to do specifically so that the ordinances that the county's working on actually are implemented, I guess, kind of like backwards, so that they actually capture all of the cases that have just come before us?
So changes to the ordinance by law can only, they cannot apply retroactively. In order to do retroactive, you have to do, it's a longer, bigger, kind of an amortization process. So I don't think we can apply them retroactively. However, they can be structured to apply for any projects that haven't been through the site plan process yet, but have gotten their zoning entitlements. They could apply to those because it would be coming in fresh with a site plan. So it will potentially catch some, but certainly not all.
Thank you. And then lastly, blasting during class time, it seems like that would be something that was preventable. So is it, like, I don't know where the coordination happens, but I would love to know who it happens with.
Sure. I'm fairly certain that the fire marshal's office looks at when they get a blasting permit request, that they will look at the proximity of other properties and folks do have to commit to certain times of blasting. So I'm sure that that's something that they will review, but we can follow up on that.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask the clerk to hold me to some type of tour or what have you of the fire marshal's office, because I don't think I've ever had one. But I would love to figure out what's happening over there on that side. And then just for the proponent or the applicant, and I appreciate the proffer on the students. I didn't hear anything on the opacity level of 0.06 or on, hold on, there was a second one. On the tree preservation outside, you said there would be additional trees planted outside of the buffers. Can you say where? Like throughout, not just in one area?
So about the tree coverage, what I said was what the development plan shows or demonstrates is that this project is meeting Durham's requirement for tree coverage through preservation alone, which is not the only way to meet the tree coverage requirements. The way I would describe it is if you cannot or do not meet your tree coverage requirements through preservation, then you're required to do more tree coverage, planting more back. So in this case, we are meeting the tree coverage requirements simply through preservation. What I don't know is where additional trees will be planted, which is the question you asked, or how many. I don't know, and I wouldn't be able to quantify what the ultimate tree coverage for this development will be. What I do know is we're meeting the UDO requirement through preservation alone. And then I think you also asked about opacities, buffer opacities, and I think we are at, 0.4 opacity, which in this case represents a 20-foot buffer, which is consistent with, developments in this area that are in the city.
So that's a no on 0.06.
Oh, we wouldn't be in a position to increase it to 0.6, which I think equates to a 30-foot buffer, and maintain the density that we're at.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Anyone else? Any other questions or comments from colleagues? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Councilmember Caballero. Good evening, everyone. Firstly, a couple of questions, but I want to make a couple of quick observations because some things were said tonight quite blatantly and quite clearly. And they were rather, I thought, headlines. I think for the first time, Representative Preserve Rural Durham openly called for a moratorium. When I suggested that the Planning Commission was pushing for a de facto moratorium, I got pushed back on. There have been people who said, well, no, we're not against development. We're not calling for moratorium. We just want more smart development. But tonight, somebody actually said it. And we've been told by our lawyer that we can't do that without some very specific legal reasons. We can't take a developer's money based upon a certain set of rules, and then when we get to the moment of voting, say, we're frustrated with our own rules, and we've got better rules coming down the road, so just hang on. We can't do that. We can't run a government like that. I heard the term rural heritage, and I have to tell you, the moniker Preserve Rural Durham is it's a bold and creative moniker in the fourth largest city in the state that is experiencing growth unparalleled in the state. I've heard that there's a desire for mixed houses, but not townhomes, because there's something about the lifestyle of a townhome and the architecture. There are many young professionals and folks just getting started in this city who need townhomes and who start their families and start their lives in townhomes, not single, detached homes on large acres with white picket fences. that's just not the reality in a growing city. That's not to say that they can't exist and can't coexist, but I think that it's very, and I think we should take it at face value that a call for a moratorium is something simply that is out of the purview of this council. I'll also say that I chair the JCCPC. I've read the coming text amendments, and the suggestion that there's something magical in those text amendments that will now address all of the concerns that have been raised before us, I think does a disservice to your cause. They will not. Many of those things in those text amendments are things that developers are already doing voluntarily to much of it. And by my reading of the text amendments, and I live with this stuff daily as the chair of the JCCPC. So I would just respectfully say that I don't know what rural heritage means or how how do we legislate that, but I do know that if it means that a continuation of building single homes on big lots ad infinitum in the fourth largest city in the state, in a growing urban center, I don't know how to reconcile it. And I have no problem admitting that I don't know how to reconcile that. So I just want to put that out there, and I also want to emphasize that it's finally been said that a moratorium is wanted on this council. And as a fiduciary of the city, as an elected leader of the city, I can't go for that for any number of reasons. If there's a legally compelling reason, if it's a capacity issue, if that presents itself, and I'm sworn to discharge my duties faithfully, I'll be the first one leading that call. But to preserve rural heritage because townhomes don't fit certain lifestyles, that's just not good enough for me. And I would respectfully put that, and I would respectfully just to the public and to my colleagues, to listen very clearly what's been said here tonight and what's been suggested tonight. To my friend Ms. Andrews, I'm waiting for the invitation. I will definitely come, and I haven't seen any invitations in my office, and I don't turn down invitations to take tours or do anything. So if it's missed, my bad. But if you get that to my assistant, I promise you, I'll put on my galoshes and come out and take a tour. Mr. Ghosh, I do have a question, and I don't know if you're familiar with the text amendments that have been alluded to and that the text amendments that JCCPC are looking to. If those text amendments had the force of law tonight, by your reading and understanding, would there be any substantive changes to the form of your proposal as it stands before us now? If you're familiar with them, and I don't...
It's my job to be familiar with them, so I'm familiar with them. I think that I'm going to say the text amendments related to mass grading would likely change the either tree coverage or development strategy as far as phasing for this. That's a guess. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest change I could think of, yeah.
Would it have any impacts on density?
I'm going to guess that the answer is, it's probably yes. I mean, it depends how would it impact the stormwater infrastructure. So under the new text amendments, for mass grading, I think grading is limited to phases, and the higher acreage of clearing for each phase, the higher the amount of tree save. Also, in the new text amendments is a requirement that each phase meet on its own in a standalone fashion the requirements for tree save and stormwater and things like that. And I think probably having to do multiple phases of, I'm spitballing here.
Right.
But so this is like 62 acres, and I think the minimum tier for mass grading would be 20. So you'd have like 3 phases. and your tree save would be, I think it's 20%? Yeah, if you're at that level. And so there would likely be some lots lost to the need for additional tree save and for the fact that each phase would have to have its own stormwater infrastructure.
Got you. What about sedimentary and erosion control? And I'm asking because the implication is that this project would be, at least by my read, substantively different if we held off for these text amendment changes. I'm trying to explore how substantive it would be.
I'm looking at Jeremy. Hold on one second.
Sure. Would you mind coming to the, I'm sorry, there's a lot of people watching who can.
And I think Director Young might have some thoughts on it as well.
All right.
Please.
So the proposed amendments, the kind of the lowest tier, the most incentivized tier that was mentioned at the 20 acres per phase, keeps the 20% tree preservation that we have today. So if they did 20-acre phases, then the tree preservation requirement is the exact same as what they've already committed to. I thought that might be a useful clarification.
It is, thank you. I didn't want to interrupt your final point. This will be I'll yield it.
No, thank you. Jeremy Anderson, Thomas Nutton. I think Neil touched on it very well about stormwater pod by pod, phase by phase. I think very similar with erosion control. Although erosion control is looked at a little differently than stormwater, it already takes into account smaller areas of development. So even though you may have a single stormwater pond for the development, you will have smaller basins for erosion control. So erosion control already has some smaller measures and metrics in place that could probably follow the phases. But again, I'm same as Neil, spitballing here. I haven't read that section of the ordinance closely and thought about it through. But
go ahead, Neil.
And if I could add, I'm looking at Sarah for some nods. I think the requirement in the new text amendment for S&EC requires larger stormwater ponds. Or I might be off on that.
I don't have that one memorized, but I think you're right.
Okay. So I think each stormwater pond is required to be larger per, say, square foot that's disturbed. That's how stormwater ponds are measured. And I think the metric in the new one is bigger. So you'd have larger temporary stormwater control measures on this. I don't know that and longer dewatering times, I think. I don't know that would change the density. That alone, I think actually the bigger impact of density would be the fact that each pod has to be developed on a standalone basis. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing on our site plan, we have like 2 stormwater ponds.
yes.
Right.
So we would have to have 3 at a minimum in this scenario, or we'd have to have additional tree save if we did a higher acres of phases.
Thank you very much. Thank you, colleague. I look forward to those text amendments and us passing them and making more robust. In the meantime, I'm not going to take people's money in the process up front and then express frustration with my own rules, invite people to play by those rules, and then midstream say, well, you know what, we got new rules coming. I don't see a path to doing it that way, but I thank you for answering the questions. Thank you, Councilmember Caballero.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Williams, and then.
Question for staff. As I'm still learning this process, at what point does the public become aware or engaged in an applicant initially applying to it getting to council?
So at the very beginning of the process, there is a requirement for a neighborhood meeting. Before an application is even submitted to the planning department, applicants are required to provide notice to the same notice area that they would for a public hearing for the case and kind of present their proposal to the neighbors, get their feedback, and then they provide that to us as a way to kind of document that they've done their first bit of outreach. So from before it even comes in to the planning department, there is a requirement for engagement.
Thank you. Question for the applicant?
Yeah.
How was the initial feedback
So the neighborhood meeting for this one was actually quite useful. There were like 4 attendees, but they were the folks who live directly around these parcels. And in fact, we added a few commitments based on the feedback we got at the neighborhood meeting. So on the development plan, we show 2 points of access on Sharon Road. There also is existing, I'm going to say, a dirt pathway that's in between those 2 points of access. So it's not our point of access that we're proposing. It's neither one of those. But what the neighbors requested was that existing dirt access be our construction entrance for this. So we have added that as a commitment on this. The other thing that they were concerned about or requested a condition about was related to the spacing of the new homes to existing homes. And so there is another commitment that we added as a direct result of the engagement at the neighborhood meeting, that no new structure built on the property would be closer than 50 feet to any existing structure on adjacent properties. Again, that came right out of the feedback we got at the neighborhood meeting. So I wouldn't say that neighborhood meeting was the most well-attended neighborhood meeting that I've ever conducted. I think there were only like 4 people, but the information we got from it was actually a lot more actionable than some of the more widely attended neighborhood meetings I've had. It was very useful.
Thank you. As I'm listening to the comments, I want to just sort of reiterate the complexity here. So you guys applied for this about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago?
February 21 is when the application was submitted.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And as I'm reading the comments for some of the planning commission members, and there are no votes, it's because it's not enough. We're not diverse enough. And as I'm listening to the comments tonight, I'm hearing that it's too much. Now, I will share my main concern, which isn't you all's fault as the applicant. It's something that it's a timing matter. I'm not sure if 5 years ago we saw the boom of interest in that area of the city. I could be wrong, but I know that just in my meetings and my talks that we're trying to find a way to play catch up. And I'm going to throw a question in here. Sarah, Director Young, you may know this, I'm not sure. And I feel bad asking you because I sit on the MPO as well with Councilmember Caballero. So we obviously have had a boom of interest in that area. And, the capacity for traffic is a public concern. And I share that concern as well. I know that there are some changes coming over there, and we still have to do our deliberation at the MPO level. Do we know? I know we can. I know it reports that we can handle the capacity as it stands, but trajectory-wise, do we have a response for that? I just don't want to leave residents out thinking that we see it, but we're not going to do anything.
I'm going to defer to Bill Judge, Assistant Transportation Director.
Let's hear what the judge has to say.
So, yes, Bill Judge, Assistant Transportation Director. This development did perform a traffic impact analysis, which does look at the cumulative impacts of other planned developments in the area. So in the course of that, they would have included any other approved developments. Now, I will say tonight we were talking about on Sharon Road, a lot of the other developments that we've been talking about are more on the Leesville Olive Branch. So the study areas did not necessarily overlap as well, but but they did perform TIA, and there are some offsite improvements down at Mineral Springs and Sharon Road with this development.
All right, thank you. I'll just close with this. It is not as simple. I keep saying this is not as simple as it appears. It's not, an application comes out of nowhere and then it shows up before council and folks show up in opposition or proposition or support, and we make a decision. We're dealing with cases that initiated over a year ago, and we're seeing how growth is happening. I just want us all to have a little patience and think through that and, really consider what we have before us as tools and resources. There are a lot of folks that say no in this city, and there are a lot of folks that are running campaigns against resources that may support us in trying to better manage or mitigate the growth and development. And I just want everyone to have that same energy as they're paying attention to these meetings that they are through those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Councilmember Caballero. I have some questions for the applicant. Thank you. Could you tell me about what percentage of this land is being left undeveloped?
I think we can do that.
And why?
And while Jeremy is looking that up, I did want to turn back to Councilmember Freeman about the 0.6 opacity. What I mentioned earlier was that we wouldn't be able to increase it to a 0.6 opacity, which typically equates to a 30-foot buffer. But I had been informed by our team here, we could do a 0.6 opacity within the 20-foot buffer that's already been committed. Evidently, there is a planting standard for that in the UDO. We'd be happy to commit to that. Yeah, go ahead. What percentage and why?
Yeah, in terms of disturbed area, Jeremy Anderson, Thomas and Hutton, it's going to be close to that 20%, the tree save.
Okay.
There's additional land within the power easement that was mentioned that we're not developing, so maybe between 20 up to 25%.
Okay. Are there any streams or steep slopes or any other landscape features that would make it, would prevent development or any part of the site?
There are stream buffers
Okay.
and small little piece of floodplain at the bottom site that we're protecting, but mainly stream buffers, and those are all being protected.
Okay.
Except for the one utility crossing that Neil mentioned.
Okay. What I'm trying to get at is this is this as dense as you can make this property reasonably, or not? Could this be an all townhome development or some townhomes and apartments rather than townhomes and single family? Just given the huge number of single family we already have in the region, I'm more interested in denser options.
Yeah, so I think the straight answer to your question is, you're basically asking, could you fit more homes on here? And I think the answer to that question is, you probably could fit more homes on here. Now, you mentioned apartments. I don't know that we can opine on whether you could fit apartments on here, but I think it is, you probably could fit more you probably could fit more townhomes on here than has been proposed. I will say, and I mentioned this earlier, that there's a lot of feedback that we're getting, and again, this was filed like 20 months ago. One of the main pieces of feedback coming out of the Planning Commission at the time was the need for a variety of housing, which is something we tried to accomplish here. This project being in the queue for this long, I think highlights exactly why we're having difficulty here. I don't think we're in a position to commit to doing more housing here, because if we did, we'd have to start the process over, and the process takes a long time. As it is, I generally would view density as a way to provide more affordability in housing. And I think in general that's true. I think the problem here is exactly how long the process takes. So if this project were to not be approved and one would have to start over, the process would start over with the new contract. I don't think you could deliver, you might be able to deliver more units. I don't know that any of them would be more affordable than what could be delivered under this. As I mentioned, Lennar is already in the site plan stage. They're pretty committed to this project. They're invested in it, and they're hoping to be able to deliver these in a timely fashion within about 20 months.
So if they're already in the site plan phase, do you know exactly how many single family and how many townhomes are being, they would build if we approve this?
I can tell you what's on the site plan right now. It's still in review, so it's subject to change,
Okay.
but it's going to be generally, I think it's 102 single family, 107 townhomes.
Okay, because what changes could you make without going back to the beginning of the without starting the process over?
You could not go over 230 units,
Okay,
and you could not increase the density from the 4.484.
okay, but you could replace some single-family with towns.
And we did. So one of the commitments I made earlier, I think the original commitment suggests that there would be a minimum of 80 townhomes, which we had increased to a minimum of 100.
But you didn't just do that today if it's in the site plan.
Oh, yeah, that is reflective of the site plan.
Yeah.
Sure. And then also made a commitment that the final lot count, no more than 50% of that would be single family.
Okay. What's the maximum number of townhouses that you can give me without going back to the beginning? And can you do that?
Well, okay, I think you're asking two questions. One is, what's the maximum number of townhomes that would be allowed under the zoning?
No, what's the maximum number of townhomes that y'all can build on this, that you will
That
build
we can
on this
commit
property?
to? I
like,
think I would need to
that
go
you can
talk to my
commit
clients about that.
Okay,
But the short answer to your question is, it's 230 is the maximum number of units, period.
but you could build 230 townhomes.
I don't know that.
Okay, can you find out for me?
I will do that.
Okay, couple other questions. Could you tell me about the size of the homes and the size of the lots?
I think so. There are planned some 22-foot wide, one-car garage towns, 26-foot wide, two-car garage towns, and I think 38 to 39-foot wide single-family lots.
Okay.
I think that's,
And square footage for those, are those standardized, or would those be different depending on what, like, model they picked, or?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay,
I can probably find that out, too.
okay. I mean, or just get, in your experience, like, what is the average square footage of a 22-foot wide townhome?
I see Stephen Dorn from Lennar approaching.
Okay.
Might be able to answer this.
Thank you.
Good evening, Stephen Dorn with Lennar, 1100 Perimeter Park Drive in Morrisville. Yes, we have the 3 product lines that we're looking here on this property, and the average size of our townhome, it varies slightly, but we're around 1,800 square feet. And then the single family, same thing, it varies, but in this product lineup, it'll be around 26 to 2,700 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Those are all my questions. Thank you. Yeah, I want more density. That's always my thing. I say to you all the time. It seems like more density is possible on this site, and there are a lot of the projects in this area have geographic challenges that make density more difficult that this plot doesn't seem to have. I think that it would be, as you said, it is possible to get more density on this site. I know we're not going to get townhomes we're not going to get apartments from Lennar because they're for sale builder. In my dream world, this would be, some townhouses, some apartments, and maybe even a little bit of retail. But if we could get it to, a better number of townhomes and fewer single family, I think I would feel better about moving it forward. And sorry, one more question. What's the number of homes that could be built by right, single family by right?
The staff report suggests it's 73.
Okay.
There are 2 zoning districts here, I think RR and RS20. I will tell you, it's not like we've done a yield study based on those metrics, but the estimation in the staff report was, I think, 73 single-family homes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mayor O'Neill?
Yes, just one question for you, Attorney Ghosh. Price. What do you think the prices of these townhomes or homes will be?
I am glad you asked that. So this is, I assume, about the market rate ones. Obviously, the affordable ones will be indexed to the HUD requirements for the same. So when we started this project about 20 months ago, the townhomes were expected to be delivered at around $290. And in the years or months since then, we've seen significant price increases in materials, labor, also in fees. I think you all are familiar with the Searles Basin fee, which increases 5% every year. I think when this project started, I think it was at 5,700. I'm not sure what it is now, but so right now we're estimating that the townhomes will be in the 370 range. The singles would be somewhere in the 490 range. Now, that having been said, I will say we are seeing material prices come back down, so it's likely to see some pullback in price point. But I think that actually highlights exactly how difficult this projects like this are. 20 months ago, Lennar felt pretty confident that they could deliver these townhomes at 290. That is not a price point that I think is really in sight at this point, based on material prices, labor prices, and just the cost of construction at this point, which is unfortunate, but it also is a fact that I think every home builder is dealing with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Freeman?
Thank you, Director Young. Just a quick question. I know that in the package of ordinances, or there was some conversation around fast tracking or ability to develop some type of fast track. I'm thinking it was specific to affordable housing. Is it possible to include density as well?
You mean some sort of priority review for projects of a certain density level?
Yes.
That's certainly something that could be explored.
And if that were the case, if in this case specifically, if it came back around and it was directed through the fast track process, what would you think the process would look like, or timeline-wise, the process would look like?
I have to be honest and say that predicting timelines is difficult because it's predicated on a couple of things. One, how quickly applicants turn back around revisions to plans, and second, just the volume of cases that we have. So we would need to have a discussion about, does priority mean that it bumps other cases that are already in the queue or not? That's a more difficult kind of question that I can't answer just on the fly. It'd be something we'd have to look at.
And it would probably be helpful to give some feedback if you thought that this should be looked at closer, and if I guess a separate meeting needed to be a separate meeting set to address that type of situation, whether it's planning or council. And that was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Are there any other questions or comments? Councilmember Williams.
A quick question in regards to the design or the layout of the property. Do you plan to have the units facing the street, or do you guys have a plan on that yet?
Do you mean facing Sharon Road?
Yeah, like
there will be no units that will front onto Sharon Road.
okay.
And to address Councilwoman Johnson's question earlier, we've been chatting here. So I think earlier I made a commitment that no more than 50% of the final lot count will be single family, and I think we could change that to 40%. So the split between this would be 60-40.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilmember Holsey-Hyman. I believe so. Yeah.
Hi, good to see you again. I know you made a statement around people being sick from drinking. Did I hear that right?
No, I just said it was someone's drinking water out of their kitchen sink.
Okay.
I didn't
But I thought you talked about somebody getting viruses and
Oh,
things
I
like that.
read it. I can read.
Okay.
This is exactly some of the side effects for turbidity, and this came directly from a document. And I think I sent it to you all, but I could resend it if you would like, from NC State University, a professor at NC State University. Sorry, give me just 1 second, and I can pull it right up and I can tell you. It came from the scientific journal linking turbidity and health issues dated April 22nd of 2021. And it stated, I'll just read the quote directly from the article real quick. Turbidity is a measure of the cloudiness of water. It is used to indicate water quality and filtration effectiveness, such as whether disease-causing microorganisms are present. Higher turbidity levels are often associated with higher levels of disease-causing microorganisms such as viruses, parasites, and some bacteria.
So just a question, like, is there any data around like the residents that have been getting sick, or I'm just curious?
I do not have that data. I just have the turbidity readings that have been done professionally, not by me, but by a professional.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you. Councilmember Williams.
I'm sorry. So to that point, for staff, are we still reading the same turbidity levels after the water has been treated? Or is turbidity an issue once it's gone through the water treatment facilities?
You mean for drinking water? So drinking water facilities take out all the impurities and make sure that that water is 100% safe for human consumption. I think I've mentioned to the council before that I have looked at the water treatment plant that Raleigh operates off of Falls Lake. They post monthly reports, and they have been meeting all of the benchmarks. There's no issues with the water that's being turned from Falls Lake into drinking water for lots of different communities in Wake County. Just like if you visited some of our water treatment plants, you will see that, you know, the water at the beginning is there, right? But at the end, you can drink it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holsey-Hyman.
Okay, this is my last statement. I also would like to do that visit with Mayor Pro Tem and Leonardo because so we have this vial that we all have on our desk, then we have what you have up there in terms of it being cloudy, but then we have our staff, you know what I mean? So I'm so confused about, is this coming out of someone's actual drinking faucet? If it's not, you know, so I'm just confused. You can.
Sorry, thank you so much for the question. So to clarify, what Sarah said is true, but those of us that live in the county will not get this purified water. We have to remain to drink our well water, and as this water comes off of these creeks and these sites, it permeates down into the water table, and that's what we're left to drink. We won't be given access to this clean water from the treatment plant. This came directly out of, the members in our audience tonight, it came directly out of her kitchen sink. I don't think that's something that you would want to drink. I certainly don't want to drink it, and I would not want my grandchildren to drink it, my husband, my family member. This is from a county resident who will not have the option to receive city water. So we just need to make that clear because, yes, they do, I'm sure, an excellent job, but if you live out in the county, that's not an option for you. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to remind my colleagues that we are going on break at 9, so I don't know if this is allowed or not, but I would like us to wrap up before then. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, I think you have something.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Is the resident whose tap that water came from, are they here? Please.
My name's Pam Williams, and I think at a previous public hearing, a friend of mine, he stood up and explained about changing the water filters and all that, and how we didn't, I didn't have any trouble with it until the blasting and all the grading out in our area. I showed my water sample to my daughters, who are 31 and 41, who grew up in the same house. And they didn't realize that my water had changed so much. But due to the blasting and all the grading out in our area, this is how my water is now.
Do you know what the turbidity level of that water in that bottle is
No,
now?
I haven't had it checked. No, sir.
You said it's changed, so when did it start looking like that? You're attributing it to blasting when it started looking like that?
Yes, sir. I am contributing it to blasting and just the general changing in the ground. When you change the ground the way they have to for this drastic soil and the steep terrain in our area, it changes the groundwater.
When did you take that sample of water?
I took it December 1st this month.
So how do your water look today or the week since then? Is your water constantly looking like that? That's your water looks like that right now?
Sometimes it gets worse, sometimes it gets better.
You have a filtration system on your?
I have a filter on my house, but I don't have one of those $8,000 filtration system that some people have.
Has anyone gotten sick?
I can't really, it's just me living there now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Are you raising your hand, Councilmember Williams?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. I was like, really? Okay. I just want to say very quickly, I had a couple questions for you, Director Young. Thank you. Because it goes back to some of the UDO ordinances that we're discussing. And then I have a couple of asks of the applicant. At JCCPC, I guess, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, we talked about the two things that we talked about that I raised and a few others of us raised around the text amendments was cost of housing, and then the other was density. And at the time, Chair Amendolia and you, and I think a few others, were saying, you know, this should kind of force density because it's going to force folks to use the land more efficiently that they're available to use. And I just want to understand, because tonight with this applicant, there's a little bit of, and it could be because they're not used to it yet, but that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that those UDO text amendments would actually affect density. And so when we get to that point, I do just want to flag, you know, it's been something that I think many of us are concerned about, is that we understand the environmental protections. I think many of us support them, but we really need to have a real clear understanding of how that's going to affect density. We've fought very hard on this council to get better density from developers. They're really listening to us. I know in some cases maybe not as much as we want them to, but I just want to raise that as something that I am hearing that tension, and I'm going to want clarity on that before we pass those measures. I know some of it's speculative, but if we have to build in like it starts to affect density in a very negative way, then there needs to be a way to kind of back out of it too. So I'm just sharing my concerns around that. I appreciate all of the residents who came out. I have a couple of questions for the applicants because I raised this for you all when we spoke during the Zoom that we had, because we talked about the UDO text amendments, we talked about the JCCPC meeting, and I discussed, you know, I know that these are things that you can proffer. I know that this is not required right now, but I did mention the double silt fencing. I did mention the flocculants. I know with the stormwater, are you committing to the 100-year stormwater? I couldn't remember.
I don't think that's on the development plan, but my recollection is at the Planning Commission, we had made a commitment not to increase the 100-year floodplain on adjacent properties. I noticed that it's not on the development plan, but I'm pretty sure that's what we said.
Okay. So just curious, I know you kind of answered the whole phased approach, like you're not willing to proffer, even though that may be coming tonight, that's not something that you all are ready to do. But with the double silt fencing and the flocculants, because it's a little bit easier of a lift, is there any consideration around those two things?
Yeah, double silt fencing. Yeah, those are things that we would commit to, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Those are the only questions and things that I have. Are folks ready to hear some, or folks ready? Okay.
Yes, and Director Young and I need to square up here.
Okay,
on
why
what
don't
the
y'all square
proffers
up,
are.
and then we'll move on. Thank you.
I just want to go back through the proffers tonight, make sure we have them straight.
Yep, absolutely.
There was an update to commitment number 10 to increase the minimum number of townhouses to 100.
Right.
To cap the single-family units to be no more than 40% of the total.
Correct.
Okay. Commitment 23, increasing the monetary proffer to DPS to $44,500.
Correct.
And then there was commitment in terms of changing, and this is when I need clarity on, Mr. Ghosh, changing the term regarding walking paths from paved to improved
Yeah, I mean,
That is difficult for me, like, what is meant by improved? Paved is pretty obvious.
yeah, so improved in this circumstance, some of these would be mulch trails, mulch walking trails that are in there. And I'll just say this, I guess paved is fine. We have 2 miles of paved sidewalk throughout, more than. So it's fine. The condition is meant to speak to the walking trails that are additional amenity, which portions of which would not be paved. So improved is what I would say there, or I think it could probably remain as is. Sidewalks will meet the standard.
Okay, I think for clarity, either to say paved or mulched would be clearer than just saying.
Oh, yeah, that'll work.
Okay. And then there was a very recent commitment to double row of silt fencing.
Where a single row otherwise would be required, right?
Okay, and then there was, what was the last commitment?
The use of flocculants in the stormwater control devices.
Okay.
And there also was a commitment to increase our perimeter buffer. It'd still be 20 foot, but it would be a 0.6 opacity.
Yep. And just to clarify, that applies to any 0.4 20-foot buffer is increased to a 0.6 20-foot buffer.
I'm seeing yeses.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have 3 motions in front of us. Anyone want to do, to adopt, motion number 1 is to adopt an ordinance annexing Stella View into the city of Durham effective December 31st, 2022, and to authorize the city manager to enter into a utility extension agreement with Lennar Carolinas LLC.
Moved as read.
Second.
I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem, and I think a second from Councilmember Williams. Our clickers are not working, so I just need to see a show of hands. All in favor? On the first motion, I think I'm seeing 5-2, Madam Clerk. Thank you. Motion number 2, to adopt an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance by taking property out of the residential rule, RR Residential Suburban -20, RS-20, Falls/Jordan District B, FJB, county jurisdiction, and establishing the same as planned density residential 4.484, PDR 4.84, Falls/Jordan District -B, F/J-B, city jurisdiction.
Moved as read.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Williams. Again, we need a show of hands. All those in favor say aye. Again, I'm seeing a 5-2. And the final motion is motion number 3, to adopt a consistency statement as required by NCGS 160D-605.
Move to adopt consistency.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Williams. Same thing, I need to see all in favor, please say aye. Raise your left hand. I'm seeing a unanimous vote on that. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I think we are on break, if that is correct, Madam Mayor. Would you like to take a break now? And what would you like for us to take, Madam Mayor?
Yes, let's take about 10 minutes. We'll come back at 9:05.
And if I'm not mistaken, Councilmember Freeman takes us to the next case?
Yes, and then Councilwoman Johnson will handle the last public hearing, and then we will revert back to me to adjourn it.
Thank you. We are adjourned for 10 minutes.
On break for 10 minutes.
Sorry, break for 10 minutes. I wish we were adjourned. Sorry.
Then we'll come back.
I'm going home, right?
Martha, I need to get some direction from you.
If you're wondering how to get rid of your holiday tree once you're finished with it, there are several free options for you to consider. The first is that live trees can be dropped off at no charge at 7 park locations from 7 a.m. until 1 p.m. on Saturdays throughout January. Those locations are C.M. Herndon, Valley Springs, Rock Quarry, Merrick-Moore, Southern Boundaries, and Bethesda Parks, and in the parking lot at Campus Hills. The second option is that live trees can be dropped off for free at the Waste Disposal and Recycling Center at 2115 East Club Boulevard during normal business hours from January 2nd through February 4th. The final option is curbside collection for existing yard waste or exempt service customers only. To take advantage of that service, simply place your tree at the curb on your normal garbage collection day between January 2nd and February 3rd. More information about all of these options can be found at durhamnc.gov/tree.
So Michelle, let's start with you. What does language access actually mean?
So language access means providing individuals who are limited English proficient or who don't speak English reasonable and equitable access to our city services and programs.
So Pilar, what are some of the challenges that people face when they're trying to conduct day-to-day business or just live their lives when there are language barriers?
Yeah, you can imagine trying to live the day-to-day when you don't understand anything that is happening around in the different systems, talking about health system, education system, regularly going to the grocery stores to buy stuff and you don't know what is happening.
Here's some tips to ensure that your garbage and recycling gets picked up. 1. Your cart should be put out for collection before 6 a.m. on your collection day. 2. Your cart should be at least 3 feet from all other objects such as mailboxes, telephone poles, fire hydrants, trees, and other carts. 3. Your cart should be no more than 3 feet from the curb. 4. No vehicles should be blocking your carts. The mechanical arms on our trucks need direct access to your carts and cannot reach around vehicles. To find more information about garbage and recycling pickups, go to this web address.
We don't always agree who to pull for on game day, but we all can agree that litter is bad for North Carolina.
Recording stopped.
Good luck with that.
You gotta make sacrifices.
You're the best uncle ever.
We forgive you.
Rescheduled.
All right, everybody, we're ready to come back in session. Councilwoman Freeman, and we're missing Councilman Williams, but I think it will be Councilwoman Freeman that we need to go ahead and begin this conversation. We'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And we're on to item 21, item number 20, zoning map change.
Yes, your mic on?
It is.
I don't think mine is on either.
Zoning map, no. Maybe now? There we go. Good evening, everyone. We're moving to item 20, zoning map change 4150 Old Chapel Hill Road. And I'll turn it over to Director Young.
Good evening again. This case is a request for a zoning map change from Tim Cybers of Horvath Associates for 4 parcels of land totaling 2.23 acres located at 4150, 4148, 4142, and 4138 Old Chapel Hill Road. The current zoning is commercial neighborhood and residential suburban 20. The applicant proposes to change this designation to commercial general with a text-only development plan. The applicant is proposing to rezone the properties to prohibit agricultural uses, passenger terminals, social service institutions, places of worship, major utilities, indoor firing ranges, commercial parking, and manufactured home sales. The properties are currently designated commercial on the future land use map. The proposed commercial general with a text-only development plan is consistent with that designation. As a reminder, 2 motions are required for this application. The first motion is to approve the zoning ordinance, and the second motion is to approve the corresponding consistency statement. And staff is available for questions.
Thank you. You've heard the staff report, and I'm going to declare this public hearing open. First, are there any questions for staff from members of the council? If not, in zoning matters, proponents and opponents need to be given equal time, and you will need to first confirm the number of, I'm sorry, I'm not reading that. I have one listed proponent, Mr. Patrick Biker, and I just want to check if there are others online. I don't have them here. If not, Mr. Young, Mr. Biker, how much time do you think you'll need?
How about 2.5 minutes?
2.5, we'll give him 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, members of the City Council. I'm Patrick Biker. I live at 2614 Stewart Drive. I'm an attorney with Morningstar Law Group in Durham, and I'm here tonight representing M.M. Fowler Incorporated, which operates the Family Fare line of convenience stores. With me tonight is my friend and our site engineer, Tim Sivers, with Horvath and Associates in Durham. At the outset, I wish to stress that Family Fare is a Durham-based company that operates over 100 fine convenience stores across the Piedmont region of North Carolina, all the way to Wytheville, Virginia, in the Blue Ridge Mountains. It has been my privilege to work with Family Fare for almost 10 years now. And in regard to the site we're considering this evening, it's important to recognize that many commercial sites in older sections of Durham are what I would call legacy commercial neighborhood zoning. Back before we adopted the UDO in 2006, there were fewer limitations in regard to the size and intensity of uses permitted in the commercial neighborhood zone. It is important to note as well that this site at 4150 Old Chapel Hill Road is located in the northeast corner of the Garrett Road and Old Chapel Hill Road intersection. This is a large intersection, and I remember when it was significantly improved quite a few years ago so that traffic moves pretty well at this location. Accordingly, I do not foresee any traffic issues with this rezoning. Since this is a site that has been developed for as long as I can remember during my career in Durham, we thought that the text-only development plan was the appropriate tool to sync up the zoning with the existing conditions for the 2.23 acres of property M.M. Fowler owns at this robust intersection. Please keep in mind that the Durham Unified Development Ordinance, Section 9.4.3, mandates an overall 50-foot, 80% opacity buffer between commercial and residential uses. We trust you have noted the use limitations in the staff report, and I think all these factors were thoroughly considered by the Planning Commission, which voted 9-2 to recommend approval of this item. To allow this Durham company to reinvest and improve this location, we respectfully ask for your approval. Tim and I will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. 2 minutes. And now I'll check to see if there is anyone else that would like to speak on this matter. And I will declare this public hearing closed, and the matter will be back before council. And note if my colleagues have questions, comments. If not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. 2 motions are required to approve the zoning map change to adopt the ordinance.
Councilmember Freeman, with your permission, do you mind if I read the language into record?
That's what I was reading.
Oh. They moved it.
Moved a motion to adopt an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance by taking property out of the commercial neighborhood CN residential suburban RS20 and RS20 and establishing the same as commercial general with a text-only development plan CGD prohibiting agricultural uses, passenger terminals, social service institutions, places of worship, major utilities, indoor firing ranges, commercial parking, and manufactured home sites.
So move.
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilmember Williams and seconded by Mayor O'Neill. All in favor, please raise your right hand. I see unanimous. And motion 2 to adopt the consistency statement as required by NCGS 160D-605.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Caballero, seconded by Mayor O'Neill. All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. And I will turn it over to Councilmember Johnson.
Wait, we got one. Ready? No, we don't. Sorry, I'm looking at 21. Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Our next item is agenda item number 21, Consolidated Annexation, Geer and Junction. This public hearing is a zoning case, and we are ready for our staff report.
Good evening once again. This case is a request for a utility extension agreement, voluntary annexation, and initial zoning map change from Jared Edens of Edens Land for 2 parcels of land totaling 8.197 acres located at 2240 and 2300 East Geer Street. While this annexation petition is currently contiguous to the primary corporate limits, the initial request was non-contiguous at the time of submittal. As such, state law requires that the request be treated as non-contiguous. So just a bit of explanation for you all. The current zoning is residential rural. For the initial city zoning of this site, if the annexation were to be approved, the applicant proposes to change the designation to Planned Development Residential 19.520 to allow for the construction of up to 160 multifamily residential units, with 15% of the units designated as affordable. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this case on September 13th by a vote of 11-0. The properties are currently designated office on the future land use map. The proposed Planned Development Residential 19.520 zoning is not consistent with that designation. If the proposed zoning is approved, staff recommends a change to the future land use map to designate the property as medium-high density residential. As a reminder, 3 motions are required for this application. The first is to adopt an ordinance annexing the property and entering into utility extension agreement. The second is to approve the zoning ordinance, and the third is to approve the corresponding consistency statement. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you so much. We've received our staff report, and I'm now going to declare this public hearing open. First, are there any questions for staff from members of the council? Seeing no questions, we'll move to our members of the public. We have one proponent signed up to speak on this item, Mr. Jared Edens, and one opponent, Jason Bizdula, who is joining us via Zoom. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Madam Clerk, do you see anyone else in the queue online? Okay. Mr. Edens, how much time would you like for your presentation?
Maybe 3 minutes and 1 second, maybe. 3 minutes.
I'm gonna hold you to a strict 3-minute limit here this evening. All right, let's do 3 minutes to each side, Madam Clerk, and Mr. Edens, feel free to take us away.
Good evening, thank you. Members of City Council, Jared Edens with Edens Investments. I appreciate Sarah and staff's time working on the project. I say this often, I really like this project. I think it makes a lot of sense. We're proposing apartments in an area that's developing fairly rapidly, and it's developing with a lot of uses that are complementary to the apartments. So we've got the Walmart, which is directly across Geer Street. So we've got the missing pocket, we've got apartments here, we've got employment. There's the 1 million square foot flex space that's coming directly south of here. That's office, flex place, good employment. Griffin Place, directly east of the site, consists of townhomes and single family. And then as you go further east, down Geer, down Carpenter Road, the developments that are planned now are generally less dense. So if you look at the area, if you were going to go back and land plan it from the get-go, this entire basin, you would have all these uses. We might have them intermixed more than when they play out on a per block basis. But the only use we don't have now is apartments, which I thought made the most sense next to the Walmart. We want as many people as possible that can walk across the street, go shopping, walk back. We advertised this site. We had 50-some apartment builders look at the property over the life of the project, and we finally found a builder out of Chicago that we could make the numbers work on the affordable. You know, we went in at 5%, which I always tell you, at 160 units, 5% is generally what we can afford. We were able to work through this, and if we take advantage of the density bonus, we can do the 15%. So I'm excited about it. I think it's a really good use and complementary to what's going on. We've got the 100-year storm proffer. We've got some road improvements at the driveways, sidewalk improvements. That's another thing, as these parcels develop, sidewalks getting built along frontages, Carpenter, Junction, Geer, all over the place, to where there'll be gaps in the future that can be filled in, but I think the interconnectivity of the area has really improved with the past couple of years of approvals. So again, I really like the project, and I appreciate the opportunity to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edens. I'll turn now to Mr. Bizdula, who's on Zoom. You also have 3 minutes.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, great. I am on here. I have several neighbors that were not able to attend tonight, so I'm speaking on behalf of all of us. I think I'm basically bringing up what we've kind of brought up in this general area. The last few things that have come before the city council, that our infrastructure in this area is getting taxed pretty heavily with the amount of development going on. Our emergency services, the schools, and the roads, and we're not really seeing any sort of updates to any of that to account for all of this additional volume. And so that's really the big concern that all of us have. And I think that's all I have to say for tonight, but appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will declare this public hearing closed, and the matter is now back before the council. Any comments or questions from council members? Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you. I'll ask Director Young to address the capacity and volume concern that the resident raised. And Bill Judd, Transportation Director.
Yeah, Bill Judge, Assistant Transportation Director. I think I can address at least the roadway capacity issues. So while the traffic impact analysis was not required for this particular development, there are some proffered roadway improvements, primarily left turn lanes into their site and improvements along the site frontage, including some pedestrian accommodations for crossing the street. And then there have been other TIAs prepared by some of those other adjacent developments. So right now the roadways have capacity for all the planned developments in this area.
Thank you. As a follow-up, I'm assuming, and it's probably not a good idea to assume, that the planning, public works, and transportation departments are keeping a kind of an eye on all of these projects that come forward and the projects that need to come forward along with them, as far as like the gap in the sidewalk. And in some way, shape, or form, they're ending up in some big, gigantic plan, like a capital improvement plan, that will eventually reach our residents actually seeing the projects move forward. But it would probably be good to get a better handle on how that process works.
I'll tackle at least the roadway and sidewalk again. We do keep an inventory. There are many sidewalk needs all over the city, though, and this is an area, these types of areas with annexations where parts are in, parts are out, makes it very difficult. We cannot maintain sidewalks outside the city limits. NCDOT traditionally does not maintain sidewalks. They will allow them on their roadways, but they will not maintain them. The county currently does not have any sort of program for maintaining sidewalks that are constructed outside the city limits. So we are aware and tracking and trying to minimize the gaps to the extent possible, but I would say that, yeah, you're not likely to see a significant capital improvement proposal, at least in terms of sidewalks, anytime soon, given our other needs in many other areas.
Thank you.
I'll just chime in real quickly and say that two things to follow up on your original question. The Water Management Department did look at this project like they do with all, and determined that there is capacity in the existing mains to serve the project. So that's documented in the staff report. I know you all have read it, but just for the listening audience to have the same information handy. In terms of water management, they do look at holistically the system as the city expands and grows, and they do plan for needed upgrades, expansions, et cetera. So I don't know the details of that because I'm not in that department, but I can assure you from our work with them on the comprehensive plan that it is something that they constantly look at and are working to program when needed.
Thank you. And I think Manager Page could probably speak to the fire and police.
Thank you. Both our fire department and our police department, as well as the other operational departments, do weigh in on each one of these items. In this particular case, their summary, both of revenues and expenses, is showing in the staff report, as well as an attached cost benefit analysis that is one of the attachments. We have even begun to look more closely at these items, making sure that we're very clear and concise with the information we're bringing. I will add to what the staff has said over here. We're paying close attention to the cumulative effect and taking a deep dive into that as we prepare both our operational budgets, our multi-year financial plans, as well as our capital improvement plans. And you will see much of that in the coming months during our council budget retreats. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Page. And I would just add to the resident that was speaking, sorry, I didn't take a note of your name, but I know that for the process that we go through our budget cycle, that many times residents will bring forward the kind of improvements that they're looking to see, just acknowledging that it's more of a squeaky wheel gets the oil, sorry, but it is. But if there is something specific that we're not seeing, it would be helpful for you to share that with us, because I think that's more on our side. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments from the council? Councilmember Caballero.
Yeah, I just wanted to be very brief and thank the applicant for the work on the affordable housing component. For it to go from 5% to 15% is tremendous, and I will just go ahead and manifest that we need to see 15% on all our projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Other comments? Great. I'll just echo my colleague. 15% affordability commitment is fabulous. We need more of these kinds of projects in our city. It's a great example to set for other developers. We appreciate it. We need 3 motions to approve this item. Our first motion is to adopt an ordinance annexing Geer and Junction into the city of Durham effective December 31st, 2022, and to authorize the city manager to enter into a utility extension agreement with Eden Lands Corp.
Moved as read.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, seconded by Councilmember Williams. All in favor, please raise your hand. I see a unanimous in favor. Thank you, everyone. Our second motion is to adopt an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance by taking property out of the residential rural RR Falls Jordan District -B, FJB, Major Transportation Corridor I-85, MTC I-85, county jurisdiction, and establishing the same as Planned Development Residential 19.520, PDR 19.520, Falls Jordan District -B, FJB, Major Transportation Corridor I-85, MTC I-85, city jurisdiction.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Hyman, seconded by Councilmember Williams. All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. And our third motion is to adopt a consistency statement as required by NCGS 160D-605.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Williams, seconded by Councilmember Caballero. All in favor, please raise your hand. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, colleagues, and I will turn the gavel back to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all colleagues for this evening, a very efficient and celebratory meeting tonight. We look forward to seeing you all join us tomorrow for our last work session of the year. We'll be right here back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And you all have a good night, and don't do too much more Christmas shopping. Try to enjoy the season.
Madam Mayor, the clerk is trying to get your attention.
Oops, okay.
Madam Mayor, do we have item 23 to discuss?
That was a part of the consent agenda.
That was part.
Or it was passed, as I understand it, from.
Might need a little help. It was on supplemental. It wasn't GBA. We considered it when we read it to be considered.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So it was not on the general business agenda, it was just a supplemental item. When it was read into the record, we considered it to be part of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
All right, thank you so much. We all stand adjourned at 9:28. See you tomorrow at 1 p.m. sharp.